の一生が全て定められていたとしたらどうだろう。人生におけるあらゆる選択、些細なものから大事なものまで選んでいるのではなく選ばされているとしたらどうだろう。無限の可能性などというものは幻想であり、人はどれだけあがこうとも定められた道の上から降りられない。止める者は止めるように、貧しき者は飢えるように、善人は善人として、悪人は悪人として、美しき者、醜き者、強き者、弱き者、幸福な者、不幸な者、そして勝つ者、負ける者、すべて初めからそうなるように、それ以外のものにはなれぬように定められていたとしたらどうだろう。ならばどのような咎人にも罪はなく、聖人にも徳などない。何事も己の意志で決めたのではなく、そうさせられているだけだとしたら、ただ流されているだけだとしたら、トムが諸君らそれでよしとするのか。モテる者らはただ与えられただけに過ぎない虚構の玉座に満足か。持たざる者らは一片の罪とがなしに虐げられて許せるか。いいな、断じていいな。それを知った上で笑える者など、生きるということの意味を忘れた劣等種、人とは呼べぬ奴隷だろう。気の抜けた勝利の酒ほど今日のそげるものはない。運命とやらに舐めさせられる敗北ほど耐え難い苦渋はない。このような屈辱を、このような茶番劇をただ繰り返し続けるのが人生だ。よし、私はあがき抜こう。どこまでもどこまでも道が終わるまで歩き続ける。はるか果てに至った場所で私は私だけのオペラを作る。ゆえに諸君らの力を借りたい。虐げられ踏みつぶされ、今まさに殺されんとしている君ら、ひととき同胞だった者たちよ。諸君らは敗北者として生まれ、敗北者として死に続ける。その運命を呪うのならば、私のもとに来るが100度繰り返しても勝てぬのならば、1000度繰り返し戦えばいい。1000度繰り返しても勝てぬのならば、万度繰り返し戦えばいい。未来永劫、永遠に勝つまで戦い続けることを誓えばいいよ。それができるというならば、諸君らが術の一部となることを許可しよう。永劫勝つ。獣の盾が、その一本一本が諸君らの血肉で編まれることを祝福しよう。今はまだ私も君ら、そして彼らも忌々しい輪の内ではあるもの。これからさ、ここでの選択が真に意味あるものであったと思えるように、いつかはきっとこの無限に続く輪を壊せるように。さあどうする、諸君ら、この時代の敗北者たちよ。私に答えを聞かせてくれ。戦うか否か。
May 1st, 1945, Berlin, Germany, 12:27 a.m. The closing act of the Second World War was a manifestation of total war such as had never been seen before. No, the term carnage would have been more appropriate. Outmanned in every way, Berlin stood in complete isolation, slipping towards the crevice of annihilation. The nearly 500,000 troops marching under the banner of the Red Army had already surrounded the capital, making escape virtually impossible. Guns roared, mingling with the screams of the dying and in an incessant cacophony of terror as the city was razed and its people massacred. Bloodshed, carnage, all in order to eradicate the enemies of the world, be they young or old, man or woman. Revenge, justice, love, peace, oppression, liberty, equality. The slogan one chose to attach to the horror made little difference. The chaos engulfing the bloody streets demonstrated quite readily the atrocities that would manifest when man was presented with an convenient higher cause to justify them with. Yes, for example, in this corner of the city, a blinding light flashed, followed by a roaring explosion. This latest bombardment sent even more soldiers, at least 3, whose silhouettes were still recognizably human, to their deaths, spreading their remains across the pavement. Letting out a loud curse, a man leaped out from the trenches with a Panzerfaust in hand. Protected by the covering fire of his ally Schmessers, he dashed over into effective firing range. He rose to his knees, took aim, then pulled the trigger, firing a heat warhead. The projectile shot forward, smashing right into the flank of a tank. Its armor dissolved in accordance with the Newman effect, and the tank imploded in a torrent of liquefied metal and 1,000-degree flames. The man tossed aside its Panzerfaust and backed by his comrades from behind, started cleaning up his remaining foes with his Mauser. Such was war. It allowed no time for idle thoughts. Only slaughter, murder, and bloodshed. No man could keep his sanity in this hell, and so the perpetrators of this chaos howled and raged, never looking back, reveling in boundless insanity to keep their blood afire. Within this flaming wasteland of gunplay, soldiers single-mindedly continued their murderous dance as if it was some ungodly ritual. Of course, in reality, it was all but child's play. Soldiers against soldiers, rifles against pistols. No matter how fiercely they fought in this battlefield, the outcome of this war was already set in stone. The Third Reich had crumbled, the ambitions of its visionary leader lost in the flames of war. What remained on that tattered battlefield was the shaken remnants of the defeated and the mob of the victors, flocking like vultures to the smell of decaying flesh. Certain death, inescapable defeat. Any attempt to retaliate was merely a self-serving act of revenge, with no hope of salvation. The situation had surpassed anything that might elicit notions of despair, transforming into no more than an absurd comedy of sorts. And yet, his heart beat still. His hand gripped steel. He would not stop so long as there were enemies to kill. For it was his sworn duty. If there existed even one thing, anything at all, to justify this hellfire, be it sheer insanity, then that, by itself, would have been a blessing in disguise. Honor and glory debased and disgraced, worth less than pig shit. And yet, human life remained the cheapest currency. That was reality. After wiping out the leftover foes and regrouping with his comrades, it dawned upon the man that there were only 3 of them left standing, himself included. The company tasked with protecting this block had completely been annihilated. The situation was anything but promising, but still more enemies were on their way.
先ほどあなたが使ったのが最後ですよ、総長。これはいよいよ終わりが見えてきましたね。
The young man flashed a bitter smile as he handed over his measure to the other. The older man glared at him but offered no more in the way of reproach. war is lost. Indeed. That was a bitter truth of it. Berlin had fallen, the company massacred, and the remaining 3 soon to join them.
まあここまで来たら別にそれもいいですけどね。ただ最後はかっこよく行きたいかな。どうせ逃げられやしないんだし。
貴様、名前は？
ヨアヒム・ブラウナーと言います。総長は？
俺はバルター・ゲルリッツ。ま、名前も知らない奴と死ぬのはお互いにごめんだからな。おい。
Master Sergeant Walter Gerlitz directed his gaze at the final survivor of the company, a young boy who had thus far remained silent.
貴様の名前は？
あ、その
The boy, eyes darting as he failed to hide his shock, was even younger than Yom, barely in his teens. If Walter had a son, he might have been around the same age.
マルコ・シュミットと言います。総長。
そうか。
Walter was about to ask what a mere child was doing out here, but ultimately swallowed his words. It was a foolish question. The enemy would show no mercy to them, not even to children. The reason for it was clear. They were the bitter enemies of the Red Army, despised member of the Schutzstaffel. Even if they were to surrender, the Soviets were doubtlessly uninterested in taking them as prisoners. As such, fighting until their last breath was the only option left to them. Walter was certain that Yochim was ready to give his life for fatherland. The boy, on the other hand,
この戦争が終わったら、ベルリンは、ドイツはどうなってしまうんでしょうか。僕たちの家族や友人は一体この先。
知らないな、そんなことは。どうせあれだ。戦勝国様が偉そうに俺たちを悪魔だ、非人道的だなどと裁くのさ。笑わせるぜ。
Yochim shed his disaffected act, the bitter tone in his voice making his true position on the situation clear.
ドレスデンに母さんと妹がいたんだ。なのに爆撃でぶっ飛ばされて骨のかけらも見つからない。悪魔だって。一体何の冗談だ。俺たちは国のために戦ってただけなのに、それをあいつらクソ舐めやがって。
He would never surrender. Yet, even if he gave his life in this battle, the outcome of the war had already been decided. Nothing could change that, least of all himself. With this defeat, their fatherland and their descendants would. A single soldier was powerless to alter the great current of war. Yochim tried to express his dissatisfaction with that reality as best he could, while Marco silently listened.
だから俺は
Several rifle shots echoed from their left just then. Walter and Marco just barely managed to duck into cover, but Yochim was not so fortunate. His head was shot clean off by the first wave, followed by an entire volley of bullets being unloaded into his chest. Pelted by machine gun fire, Yochim's body contorted into a clear manner, almost reminiscent of some form of dance, before finally hitting the ground. An anticlimactic finale indeed for the youth who had only moments prior expressed his desire to fight to the bitter end. But such was the reality of the situation, the reality of war. There were no heroes here, no messiahs or miracles to save them, only men dying like insects. And should one allow his soul to be overcome by wrath and despair, when confronted with this knowledge, it would only serve to invite the jaws of death to consume him next. The chaos of war would not tolerate idle thoughts. The knowledge of one's duty was all that was necessary. As Walter rolled into the safety of a ruined building, he shouted the name of his lone surviving comrade with all the strength he could muster. But instead of words, the sole reply he received was yet another flash, followed by a fiery explosion. The upper half of the young boy's body was flung at Walter's feet. The The cramped alleyway was heavy with the stench of blood and scorched entrails. Walter powerlessly dropped to his knees into the vast sea of blood. Marco smiled, even as the last embers of his life faded away. It was unbelievable someone could still form words in a state such as this. Walter took the boy's hand. Is there any way to turn down the music? I heard none of that. As gunfire continued, a brand new tank rolled into the battlefield. Marco Schmidt was beyond help. Not even God could save him now. And so, Walter's rightful place now was on the battlefield, his hand clutching a gun, and not the hand of a dying soldier. His ears lent not to the naive, parting remarks of a boy, but straining to hear the breathing of his enemy. He knew that better than anyone, and yet... Joachim, Walter, and so many other German soldiers just like him had done nothing more than take up arms to protect their fatherland and loved ones. Was that truly a sin? Surrounded by the flames of a dying capital, the young boy spoke in mere disjointed fragments, voicing a question Walter himself would have loved to pose to the heavens above. Yet after mere seconds of doubt, Walter answered curtly. Such was the way of the world, a cruel, bitter truth. Walter found himself within a growing resentment for the Lord. Marco Schmidt then quietly passed away in Walter's arms. The man gazing up at the heavens, the young soldier's smile in death, albeit tainted with the mud and blood, still held traces of boyhood. A bitter smile mirroring Marco's crept into Walter's face. His words might have seemed the ramblings of a lunatic beset by the armies of the dead. But they were more than that. Walter cocked his Schmesser, confirmed that it was loaded, then charged out of the ruined building into the open. He unconsciously let out a battle cry loud enough that it threatened to run his throat. Would he end up gunned down like Joachim, or share the same fate as Marco? It hardly mattered anymore. Either way, he'd die a miserable death befitting this miserable war. His mind was occupied with such despaired thoughts. In no way could he have predicted what has to come next.
天に増します我らの父よ。願わくは皆の尊まれんことを。
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
彼らに永遠の安息を与え、絶えざる光もて照らしたまえ。
Grant them eternal rest, O Lord, and may everlasting light shine upon them. It was a soldier's intuition that drove Walter to reflexively take shelter. His vision was drowned by a blinding white light and an explosion so fierce it dwarfed all previous bombardments, an explosion that seemed to rip apart the very heavens. Walter realized that this explosion was far beyond the level of any weapon that could possibly be employed in urban warfare. What in the world had happened? The city he had literally staked his life to protect had been reduced to a charring wasteland. Although it took quite a while for Walter to regain his sight and hearing, there was still not enough time for him to make sense of the situation. There was part of him wondered if it was all a sick joke. Only one thing was clear: both his allies' corpses and the encroaching enemy troops had been annihilated. No bombing raid could have inflicted such immense damage, and although Walter had survived the attack itself, his resulting wounds were too deep. Pieces of steel and concrete blasted in his direction by the explosion had pierced his back and flank. The hand that once held his Schmesser was blown off from his elbow. It wasn't even worth the effort to attempt to discern the number of more minor injuries. His incessant bloody vomit told him that he was also suffered severe internal damage. He wouldn't make it. Walter swore blindly, no longer certain of the target of his indignation. And then the voice from before rang out again. Hear my prayer, O Lord. To you all flesh shall come. Return unto thy rest, O my soul, for the Lord hath dealt bountifully with thee. It was a requiem offered up to fallen soldiers, one sung in a beautiful voice. Not even the prestigious church choir could produce a melody quite this dignified. Yet at the same time, the scorn seeping into the voice was all too evident. Only upon the eve of the apocalypse itself could such a voice be conceived of as an angel's. It sung of the dead with scorn, ridicule, and mockery, deriving the utmost pleasure in trampling upon every last remnant of the dignity they possessed. This voice of a destroyer intoxicated by mayhem. This was the product of a black mind, possessed solely by an inhuman malice. Grant them eternal rest, O Lord, and may everlasting light shine upon them. And so, stepping out onto the vast expanse of the breeze, the destroyer appeared, that demonic requiem at his lips. His lips? It was a young boy, lacking in years even in comparison to Marco, with a face so delicate that a careless glance could easily mistake his features for those of a girl's. A single look at the boy was enough to give Walter chills. His teeth began to shatter. Although he had lost a considerable amount of blood and his vision had grown hazy, the reason behind the freezing chill at his back lay elsewhere. The sheer enmity and bane radiating from the boy's visage was indeed contributed to that, but to Walter the most dreadful thing was the fact that he knew that face. There lived no man who fought on the Eastern Front and knew not of this boy. A beast possessed by an insatiable hunger, his aberrant mind ruled by inhuman madness, his single eye gleamed, silver lock swaying. He gripped a pair of guns, each engraved with a wolf's angle, the rune of the wolf. There was no doubt. It was a face Walter could not ever forget. The face of a boy who had supposedly died 3 years ago. Eastern Front Assault Corps Special Unit Leader SS Major Wolfgang Schreiber. An unchained beast that slaughtered both friend and foe, the Ashen Demon that had supposedly met his end during a purge. How could he be standing here? Hardly the words one would be offering to a dying comrade, especially one whose death would most likely caused by Schreiber himself. The boy flashing an innocently devilish smile in front of Walter was no doubt the very same person he remembered. And yet, his armband bore not the swastika, but a different symbol altogether, almost as if he were no comrade at all.
って殺すのが商売なんじゃないのかな。
The boy playfully surveyed the landscape. It was proof enough of his statement, and what followed was nothing short of unnatural. Something akin to a pink vapor erupted in their vicinity, like a fog or a haze. At the same time, Walter's senses were assaulted by a dreadful moaning. These were the cursed cries of the fallen, fated to suffer and lament until the very end of time. The endless chorus of lamentation caused even the seething air of the battlefield to cool. These were the spirits of the dead. Walter felt like he could almost make out the faces of Marco and Joachim among the swirling mass, as well as the destination towards which they were spiraling. Straight into Schreber's Totenpuff's eye patch. He was devouring the very souls of whom he claimed. Confronted with such a repulsive, unworldly spectacle, Walter could not determine whether he should give himself over to rage or simply weep. He longed for the repose of insanity.
さて、それじゃあ総長、僕はもう行かないといけないんだけど、君はどうする？
Schreber, seemingly done with his meal, warily turned his neck to Walter. He was breathing his last, not in any condition to spill blood like a soldier should.
殺し足りなくはないのかい？今さら連中の100や1000を殺したところで何も変わりやしないけどね。でもだからって何もせずに黙ってる必要なんかどこにもない。見なよこのベルリンを。全くひどいありさまじゃない。こんなものが僕らの求めた千年帝国の終わりだなんて誰が納得するって言うんだよ。
Content?
できないよね。
Walter threw a piercing glance at the smiling boy. Indeed, no one in their right mind would be content with such an outcome. He'd had friends to call his own, a family to go home to, a woman to love. He'd cherished this country. All of that became tainted due to Germany's defeat, dishonor that no century could wash clean. That was...
許せないよね。薄汚い劣等ごときが我が物顔で帝都を蹂躙するなんて。女や子供や年寄りを犯して殺して吊るすなんてさ。総長、忠勇なるドイツ軍人バルター・ゲルリッツ総長殿、君の気持ちを聞かせてくれ。
The amount of blood leaking forth from Walter's mouth made speech difficult, but his feelings were set. Joachim, who vowed to fight till the bitter end, Marco, who wished for victory, their feelings as well as his own. The boy standing before him was unmistakably from the fold of the devil, but such things mattered little at this point. What he wanted was... victory, honor, and the glory for the fatherland. To bring peace for friends and family that had fallen. To bring prosperity for generations yet unborn. And above all else, for his very own soul.
ジーク入る。そうさ総長、素晴らしいよその息だ。君のような勇者にこそあの方の血肉となる資格だ。戦争は終わらない。僕たちを終わらせる。何度でも続けて続けて続けて続けて。
Grant us victory.
つかの間共に行こうじゃないか。無限に続く戦場。
We shall claim victory in the next war, if not in the one after that, hundreds and thousands of millions of battles, repeating over and over again until this outcome can finally be toppled. Trevor thrust his Mauser in Walter's direction as the last light of the man's soul began to fade.
彼らに永遠の安息を与え、絶えざる光もて。
Grant them eternal rest, O Lord, and may everlasting light shine upon them. His requiem was one scorn for the fallen, pregnant with malicious intent, and yet Walter thought it beautiful, like a song of the angels. It was then he finally realized that this was the apocalypse, and that he would soon join the ranks of those marching to destroy the world. He would become a strand of the beast's mane, one of his many legion. The boy gazed to the heavens and offered up a spitting cackle. His silver hands hair dancing, the soul of the Walter Gerlitz was sucked into the boy's blood-crazed eye and vanished. At the same time, in another place, a new nightmare was unfolding. Great! An entire battalion of at least a dozen tanks had failed to bring down a single man. No, an entire battalion of tanks was being destroyed by a single man. In the corner of a supernatural maelstrom stood a somber specimen of a man darker than the blackest of nights. Beneath his neatly worn uniform stretched a body of steel trained to the utmost limits. A perfect fusion of the sort of artistry found in his great sculptures of antiquity and raw martial prowess. The man wielded nothing, not even a short blade. He fought with his fists alone. But they were all that he needed to sunder the armor of a tank, as if it were nothing but scrap paper. Needless to say, no mere man could hope to imitate this display. Indeed, it was a monster, or if not, a weapon taken human form, a fortress upon the battlefield. Either way, the Soviet forces were dealing with an inhuman soldier, a being exceeding human boundaries. Furthermore, the towering beast of a man had yet to so much as attempt to evade any of the artillery fire being leveled upon him. Even after being pelted by countless bullets and tank shells, his body remained unscathed. However, that was only natural. For everyone knew this man, his strength, and his name. Knew that he was the hero who died a year before. And what was the dead could not be killed. The man let out a deep breath. His overflowing will melted the surrounding rubble into toxic waste, blasting it afar with a gust of burning wind. His tightened muscles expanded to their extremes as if longing for release. A hammer of steel. There existed nothing in this universe that could withstand the blow he was preparing to unleash. The energies gathered in his fist gave birth to a refraction, causing the very visage of the man to distort. But as the man finished swelling up the energy and was about to release and unleash destruction, his fierce concentration suddenly let up just as it was about to reach critical mass. Almost as if something had ruined his mood. Perhaps he thought the panicking soldiers, having lost their morale, were not even worth killing. Then had those soldiers miraculously escaped the jaws of death? Of course not. What in this world could surpass the thrill of the hunt? The song of the cruel huntress echoed across the night. A scorching wave of pure flame passed by the man, devouring the soldiers, burning them to cinders. This was clearly no ordinary weapon. Its destructive force far exceeded the power of Molotov cocktails or tank fire. It was more akin to a pulse of concentrated energy from a nuclear blast, as impossible as that seemed, than any urban weapon. Otherworldly screams of pure agony reverberated throughout the war-torn battlefield, now engulfed by a sea of flames. The soldiers, assailed by the instantaneous burst of fire, had evaporated without a trace, but the hate-filled screams of their souls rang out in the night. This was the same phenomenon that Schreiber had conjured up just a moment earlier. It was uncertain for how long the woman had been standing back to back with the somber man. Her tone was grim and bereft of joy, her visage deep crimson, her swaying hair the color of fresh blood and hellfire. She would possess a certain calculating beauty were it not for the gruesome burn marks covering the left half of her face. As such, her visage evoked only a grim awe born from a marriage of the fair and the repugnant.
それで私に何か不満があるのかいかにも気に入らない。
Gracefully letting forth a puff of cigar smoke, the woman posed the question to the man at her back. No answer came.
まあいい。殺しすぎるシュライバーと合わせればちょうど均衡が取れる。無人の教授だもんでしょう。せいぜい大事にする。ここは奴らにうまく攻め落としてもらう必要がある。故に殺しすぎるのも殺さなさすぎるのも等しく罪だということを自覚しているなら何も言えない。
No one could be blamed for mistaking the Crimson Woman's words for those of a lunatic. No sane person would speak as if they were capable of destroying the entire Red Army surrounding Berlin on a whim.
宣告相当閣下がいるから武装家の長官でもこううるさい宣伝よいずれ後をそして大量の市民と同胞を道連れにこの程度は陥落する。犠牲としては性質創造を試みるのになるから適当な触媒だろう。敵をいくら殺させるか守るべきか愛すべきか彼ら10人の方が命を狙う。それが何で
The man finally spoke.
何貴様あれに何か用があると。
Silence again, the man failed to answer. The woman narrowed her eyes, her gaze heavy with suspicion, before letting loose an exasperated sigh.
やれやれまただ寡黙すぎる男というのも考え物だな。まさかあれと戦うのか考えているわけだ。そして仮にそうだとしたらくだらない。バカバカしいからやめておけと言ってあれは絶対にいずれにせよあれは我々の上官であり狩猟殿の盟友だ。貴様が範囲を持つというのははっきり言って捨ておけ。
俺にそんなつもりは。
たぶん貴様の硬すぎる頭の中にそんな計算などあった。
The music is too loud, guys!
私がさっきの質問
Oh my god, there is a thing. Big. Yay! Holy shit.
我らが国園卓の指導者お二人
Oh, that's so
兄
much
弟
better.
のごとく仲が良い。であれば必然あれのいる場所は決定している。見るがいい。
Meanwhile, up in the Berlin sky, tainted by blood and fire, taking form from through the carnage of the capital, was this tremendous swastika. A man stood atop the towering spire at the center.
総員慶中我らが主偉大なるハガルの君の恩前である。そのお言葉目視刮目して拝聴せよ。
Her booming voice echoed in the ears of all living men in the city of Berlin, as if through some sort of sorcery. At that very moment, all soldiers ceased their fighting, all children dried their tears, and all elders stopped their flight. Each and every soul in the city gazed up at the sky as if possessed. Its deep canopy that was tainted by the blood and fire of the city below, boiling as if it were some sort of cauldron. The Berlin Himmel. On the very day the 1,000-year Reich crumbled to dust, a devil of blinding light descended with them from the heavens. His locks like a floating mane, golden in color. His regal gaze equally golden. It was the gold of splendor, of brilliance surpassing creation itself, beauty mingling with heavy solemnity, yet at the same time beastly in hue, a being that should not exist in the realm of man, the harbinger of beguiling light. At his side, a man with features vague and twisting as the darkest shadows. He was garbed in the plain robes of a hermit, with ambiguous features that made it impossible to discern his age. A yin to his yang, the two of them existed on a level far removed that of any being gazing up on them. They were the monsters whom even the monsters feared. Number 1 and 13 of the Longinus Dresden Orden's Obsidian Round Table. His leader and vice-commander. Gazing down at Berlin, no, the entire world, the man in gold began to speak.
己の一生が全て定められていたとしたら何とする。勝者は勝者に、敗者は敗者に。なるべくして生まれ、どのような経緯をたどろうとその結末へと帰結する。ならば、どのような努力も、どのような大願も、祈りも願いも意味はない。ケーラ悪魔の子。世界の敵として滅ぼされんとしている者たちは、一辺の罪とがなしに侵され、奪われ、踏みにじられているに過ぎない。この忌むべき月頭の輪の中で、死すらもまた解放ではない。英語、そこに至れば回帰をなし、再び始まりに戻るのみ。ゆえにこの後も無限に苦しみ、無限に殺され続けるだろう。それを口惜しいと、覆したいと。
Man's grim words reached every soul residing in Berlin. Nothing awaits you but eternal suffering, eternal defeat. The people of Berlin could not deny his claims. The Golden Beast's proclamation rang out with the urgency of the trumpet of the last final judgment. This was a man possessed of a supernatural charisma. Utilizing extreme conditions in order to manipulate the will of others was hardly a novel trick out of itself. But the sheer scale of the man's performance here warranted deeper scrutiny. His voice possessed a masterful quality, capable of penetrating the very heart of all those who heard it. The best comparison was to the cries of dragons from the Age of Legends, a juggernaut of a voice that would not fail to ensnare any mortal. And the being that possessed it was certainly no mortal, the Golden Beast, the Black Prince, the Harbinger of beguiling light, the Monarch of destruction. Every word that passed through his lips was saturated in magic. He gave the command. If you wish to overcome your miserable lot in life, then offer your very soul. If you long to wish away the stigma of the defeated, take the pen and sign the pact with blood. It was the temptation of the devil himself. The Golden Monarch looked down upon the lesser beings crawling upon the earth and posed a question to them. The answer was all too evident. Grant us victory. Grant us victory. Seek Heil Victoria. A deep fissure ran across the man's perfectly beautiful face. To conjure the words of Dr. Faust. Oh, Faust. His features portrayed the uncanny equilibrium of a genuine smile and a grotesque sneer. Mephistopheles, the harbinger of beguiling light. The name of the wicked fiend that could grant every man's wish in exchange for his living soul. The moment those ponderous words left his lips, the unthinkable happened. All men with guns in hand took them to their mouths. All those wielding blades thrust them deep into their own chests. Those without armaments plunged themselves into the hellfire still raging around them. Guns roared, steel drank blood, men plunged to their own deaths, suicide unfolded in every street corner. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands rushed to their deaths with abnormal haste, their souls being absorbed into the Golden Monarch. It was an insatiable holocaust engulfing the entire capital. This could not have been the first time. He had consumed countless souls in the past. Was this then the final ritual necessary to complete his task? The grand sacrificial altar stained by the blood of soldiers and countrymen who had looked up to him as a savior, begging for salvation. In all its grimness, all its cruelty, all its terror, it was...
美しい。まさに悲劇。あなたをしたい、あなたが守るべき者たちがあなたのせいで死んでゆく。あなたはそれを嘆き、喜び、自らの力へと変えるだろう。我が友、私がこの滑稽な人生でただ一人畏敬の念を抱いた獣殿。あなたはこれから何をなす？
The shade of a man who had remained silent until now finally spoke.
あなたは一体何を求める？
愚問だな。法則の破壊と超越。私に道を示したのは K だろう。もっとも他に個人的興味がないでもないが。
それは一体？
法則を作ったもの。
なるほど。すなわち
God. Or perhaps the devil. The shade chuckled, its lips widening into a smile.
私は優秀な生徒を得て幸せだ。鋭引回答を正しく理解しているのはやはり現状あなただけか。いや素晴らしい。この瞬間だけは何度経験しても飽きが来ない。それだけに正直名残惜しくもありますが。
行くのか、カール。
ええ、その名も置いていきましょう。いずれ必ず会えるはず。半世紀もすれば東方のシャンバラが完成する。そこに私の代理を用意するゆえ、下僕たちの遊び相手にでもすればよろしい。今回の契約であなたの魂は他に比類なき強度を得た。性質創造の思考も果たした以上、怒りの日までこちらにとどまる理由はありますまい。クリストフのこともある。万全を期すために幾人かあちらに連れて行ってはいかがです？
無論元よりそのつもりだ。ザミエル、シュライバー、ベルリヒンゲン。
結構それは隙のない人選だ。というよりあの3人以外では今のあなたに随伴することなど叶わぬか。
The two men exchanged words in a casual tone, perhaps reminiscent of two chess players contemplating their moves, even as scenery from hell spread out beneath them. It was apparent why the two of them would have been seen as brothers. They shared a certain air of resigned enlightenment, as if they presided from a lofty heights lesser beings could not dream of reaching. No tragedy, no comedy, no creation under the sun would move them. Their laughter was no mere sneer, nor their actions merely the result of a frozen heart. Rather, they were worn down by time itself, imbued with the uncanny aura of the ancient stage. Gazing up at the two of them were roughly 10 others in military form, standing completely unscathed within the decaying capital of agony that was Berlin. They were the fangs and claws of their golden master, and among them the three mentioned earlier surpassed even the rest. The crimson woman who had tears of joy trickling down her face in response to the honor of being chosen by her golden commander. Her loyalty grew fiercer than ever. The silver-haired boy responded with sulk, lamenting the temporary end of his carnage. For the moment, however, he vowed to acquiesce. The somber giants stood silent, seemingly oblivious to all but the shade he fixed his gaze upon. I thought they'd be voice acting there, but I guess not. Worry not. Your wish will be granted soon enough. I would appreciate it if you didn't glare at me quite so forcefully. The specter of man grinned, amused by the giant's electrifying gaze, before turning his attention to his golden brother once more.
ではまたいずれ、獣殿。再び我らがまみえる時こそ、 互いの目的が成就すると祈りましょう。
いいな。成就させると誓うのだ。傍観するだけでは何もつかめん。K の悪い癖だな。
確かに。であればここに誓いましょうか。
The Totemkopf Empire had waged war against the world had finally met its end. Whether it be true or not, it is oft-repeated anecdote that Nazi Germany, in possession of some of the world's most advanced technology during its time, had dabbled in obscene rituals behind the scenes in the pursuit of the secrets of black magic. What became of the demons brought forth by those experiments, and all their diabolic relics? Their whereabouts would remain unknown, assuming they ever truly existed to begin with. The end. Nope, never mind. And so 6 long decades came and went. What the fuck? November 29th, 2006. Mount Fuji. Aokigahara, Sea of Trees. 3:27 a.m. Why is it always so early, damn it? Okay. Is this a common theme? The entire area was engulfed by crimson flames. A torrent of sheer energy had emerged from the nearby cave, mowing down trees and setting them ablaze. This place was a crevice in the fabric of space, a meeting point for the ley lines that spread across the earth like a net. A lone man emerged from the cave. He wore a rosary and a cassock, signaling his status as a holy member of the cloth. Indeed, the warm smile playing across his lips was that one would expect from a man of God. Yet, a man appearing in a place like this at the dead of night, emerging alongside an inferno, truly be a servant of the divine? And kneeling before him in servitude was a young woman with jet black hair, her skin color and features clearly identified as a native of this land. She spoke reverently, her face as expressionless as that of a statue.
ご無礼をお許しください。生産杯芸家、バレリア・トリファ狩猟代行。あなたをここへお呼びしたのは、この私の意向です。自己紹介は必要ですか？
いいえ。レオンハルト、あなたのことは覚えていますよ。キルヒアイゼン教の後を継がれた時はまだほんの子供でしたが、美しく、そして強くなられましたね。
恐縮です。
Unpleasant moaning could be heard echoing throughout the area. They were likely the souls of the men and women that had taken their own lives within the forest. The young woman paid them no heed even as they continued to make their presence known. The priest, in contrast, inhaled them all with affection, making them his own. A blasphemous scene, an affront to all that was just. It was identical to the events of Berlin 61 years prior. Was this perhaps a continuation of what had begun that night? Priest with a voice that sang each word, before him a young woman offering nothing but the humblest of words. They exchanged a few greetings, but nothing of note. Trifles such as how the priest had traveled from the other side of the earth by traversing its ley lines, and how the girl had altered his original path in order to leave him here. Apologies and explanations were her impudent action, as well as the reason why the priest could not possibly journey there at the present time. All those were secondary importance, unnecessary to discuss here. There was but one thing of value.
ではこれより共に戦の続きを始めましょうか。
That one crucial point, and that alone, that they were preparing to finally unveil to the world the supreme performance they had spent so many moons preparing. Now then, may the curtains of the Grand Guignol rise. Slaughter, butcher, massacre until there is no more left. Violate, conquer, and consecrate. Let there be victory, let there be conquest, and thus.
神、これを欲したも、忠誠こそ我が名誉。
They would repeat their struggle as many times as necessary. They would continue fighting to the very limits of time itself. They had sworn to do so, and so they were bound to carry out this task. The young woman's recital of the oath of their holy crusade was met by the priest's own blessings. And so on that night, in that forest, the legion that had vowed to destroy the world began to stir, unbeknownst to any. So when do I make my choices? It's been about an hour now. Just saying. Oh, okay, never mind.